In today's Procreate tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create this super cute paper cut effect. You will learn how to use layers, clipping masks, and Gaussian blur to create this 3D illusion of the different levels. I've got a screen size canvas here. You can use any canvas size that you would like to use. And we're going to set the background color to this light green. And then we are going to add some text. And of course, you can add any text that you would like. I have chosen the word hope, but of course you can choose any word that you would like. Maybe also someone's name could be nice as well. We're going to double tap on this and we're going to change the font. And the font that I'm going to use for this is called Montserrat. And then I'm going to use the black font weight because it gives me more space to fill the letters. And again, you can choose any font that you would like. For this, but I recommend that you choose a font that is quite thick so that you have more room inside the letter to fill. And then we are going to place this in the center of the screen, and the easiest way to do that is use that snapping tool. So you turn snapping on, and now you can place the word in the center of your canvas. Now I'm going to change the color of my words to this orange yellowy color because this is going to be the color that's furthest back. So pretty much what we are going to do now is we're going to add layers, and each layer that we are going to create is going to come a little bit further forward. Start by adding a new layer like this, and then tap on that layer thumbnail, which is empty at the moment, and then select clipping mask. And then we're going to select a color that's going to come in front of our orange color here, and I'm going to select this light yellow color. And then you can use any monoline brush to create a line. So now we're just going to make a wavy line, something like this. And what you need to do now is you need to close this line. And I know this is a bit difficult because you can't really see where the line goes because of the clipping mask, but this will help us fill the shape. So what you can do now is drag the color swatch into the shape to fill it. And this probably looks like magic now. So I want to show you how this works. So we're going to turn off the clipping mask so you can see what's happening here. And you can see that underneath the clipping mask, I've actually drawn this whole shape. And then when we turn the clipping mask back on, only the pixels that are on top of our hope word are going to be visible. And then we are going to add another layer. And again, we're going to select clipping mask. And now I'm going to select this green color, and I'm pretty much going to do a similar thing. I'm just going to add some wavy lines like this, and then try and close the shape and then fill it like this. And so now what you can do as well, if you're not quite happy with the lines that you created, select the arrow tool and then select the warp tool. Select advanced mesh, and now you can adjust the lines a little bit, just to make it a little bit more interesting if you would like to. So you can drag them up and down and adjust your shape any way you like. And this is looking good now. So now we're going to create another new layer. Select the clipping mask, and now I'm going to select the slightly darker shade of green. And again, I'm just going to draw a wavy line here, try and close it at the end, and then fill the layer. And again, I'm not quite happy with the lines yet. So I'm just going to adjust them ever so slightly. And then the same with all the other lines. I just feel that they need to be a little bit bigger like this. And now we are going to create the shadows for the layer to create that 3D layered effect. And we're going to start with the dark green shape first. Open the layers panel and then duplicate the layer. And then the second layer is the one where we are going to create the shadow. And in order to do that, we want to fill this layer with black. So what you want to do is tap on the layer thumbnail, select Alpha Lock, and then fill this layer with black. So we're going to select that black color, tap on the layer thumbnail and fill that layer. And then you want to unselect the alpha lock because we're going to use a Gaussian blur now, and Gaussian blur doesn't work with alpha lock on the way we want, so that's why we need to turn it off. So now we are going to the adjustment section and select Gaussian blur. And then we're going to drag the Apple Pencil to the right, and you want about 7% of Gaussian blur. And you can see now how this creates this shadow and this effect as if this layer was standing a little bit above all the other layers. And this is exactly what we want. So we're going to do the same thing now with all the other layers. You select your shape, duplicate the shape, then alpha lock the layer, fill the layer with black, remove the alpha lock, and then set the Gaussian blur to 7%. And then we also want to create an inner shadow for all of the letters. And in order to do that, we are going to duplicate the word and then make sure that you select the bottom word, tap on the layer thumbnail, and then tap on rasterize. So this means you won't be able to edit that text anymore, but this is fine. This is what you want. And then again, we are going to alpha lock the layer, fill it with black, remove the alpha lock, and then select Gaussian blur. And now you can see that this has created the Gaussian blur on the outside, which is not what we want. So what we need to do instead is create it on the inside. So this is a little bit hard to see. And I'm going to move this to the top of our layer so that you can see what I mean. So what we need to do instead is we need to cut out the word hope from this. So now we're going to select this, and then we're going to go to the Gaussian blur layer here at the top, and we're going to select clear. And so now everything that was inside of our letters has been cleared out. But now, of course, you can't see the blur anymore. So now what we need to do is duplicate this layer a few times to make it a little bit more intense. And you can see now that there's a slight hint of the blur appearing now. I'm going to pinch zoom to merge these layers. And then we're going to apply Gaussian blur one more time. So we're going to select Gaussian blur, and now you can see if we do our 7% Gaussian blur, how we now created this inner blur like this. And I know this sounds a little bit complicated, so you might need to rewatch this section of the video again to get it exactly right. Right, so now we're going to add some little foliage here as well in the middle of our letters. So now we're going to select the layer with the dark green and create a new layer in between our shadow here at the top and this green section. I'm going to use white for this. Now you have the option of maybe drawing in your own doodles here, little flowers or grass or anything you'd like to draw. Or alternatively, you can also use brush stamps. I've got a selection of foliage brushes here that I'm going to use for this. There's also a grass brush that I like to use. And you can get these brushes from my website, or you can also create these yourself. I've got another video that I'm going to link in the description of this video that shows you exactly how you can create these brushes yourself. So I'm going to use the grass brush, and I'm just going to add some grassy bits here. And if you're finding it hard to see where the grass goes, what you can do as well is temporarily remove the clipping mask here. And you'll see that the top clipping mask has been removed as well, but this makes it a lot easier to see where you've placed your grass. And then you can turn the clipping mask back on to hide the shapes that you don't want to see. And now I recommend for all the white elements that you're using the same layer, because we're going to be adding a shadow a little bit later on as well. And if you have all your elements on the same layer, it's going to make it a little bit easier. So now you can choose any of your other elements that you have here, maybe little flowers. And so what I recommend you do here is you place your element anywhere here at the top where it's quite easy to select it. So now we're going to use the selection tool. And now with that freehand selection tool, you can create a circle around your element and then use the arrow tool, and then you can move it anywhere where you would like to have this element. And then we can create some more in other areas as well. And we can use some different ones. And then the last element in our white layer, I'm going to use some little clouds here as well. These are quite cute as well. Or maybe you can just have them sort of come in from the side here at various areas, and maybe make them a little bit bigger and a bit smaller. And now we're going to create a shadow for this layer as well. So again, like we've done with all the other shapes, you're going to duplicate this layer, alpha lock the layer, and then fill it with black. And then remove the alpha lock, and then use Gaussian blur. And then with these layers, you might not need as much as 7% Gaussian blur. I recommend that you only use 3%, and then use the arrow tool to slightly reposition the shadow. And so what you can do here is tap twice next to this boundary line here, just to nudge the selection a little bit further to the right, and then you're going to do the same at the bottom. And so you can see now that there's not much of a shadow at the top of the element, but most of the shadow is actually sitting at the bottom. And this shadow is quite intense. So what we're going to do as well now is we're going to reduce the opacity of the shadow to 50%. And so this is a nice and subtle shadow. It sort of stands out, but it's not too intense. All right, so now we're going to add another layer. This time we're going to use the light green color. And we're going to create a new layer above the light green section here as well. And again, we're just going to place some little cute foliage stamps here in between. And of course, you can resize them and reposition them any way you like. And this is looking good. So again, we're going to create the shadow by duplicating the layer, turning on the alpha lock, and then filling the layer with black. Turn off the alpha lock, and then use Gaussian blur. Probably 3% again, like we've done with the previous layer. And then use the arrow tool, and then we ever so slightly nudge the blur layer to the bottom right like this. And then we're going to decrease the opacity to 50%. So you can see there's a very slight shadow here. And when you're looking at this shadow, what you want to make sure is that this shadow looks approximately the same as the other shadows. So it creates the same illusion of depth. All right, and then we're going to create another new layer. This time we're going to create the layer just above the yellow layer like this. And we are going to use that light green color this time. And again, we're just going to add some little more elements here. Probably not too many. The further up you get, the less of these little elements you need. Maybe just a few scattered around. And then again, we are going to create the shadow here as well. All right, so this looks really cute. Now I think the last thing we want to do is create a shadow at the bottom of our letters as well. So we're going to open up the layers panel and select the word, duplicate the word again, and then with the bottom layer, we're going to rasterize this layer, and we are going to fill it with black. And then we're going to choose Gaussian blur, blur the letters. This time we want to blur them a little bit more, probably about 15%. And then use the freeform selection tool here and drag the top handle to the bottom to almost lay down the letters. And then we're just going to drag them down ever so slightly to create this illusion of floating letters. So this is very strong now. And we're going to decrease the opacity a little bit. You want this to be quite faint, sort of like this. And there you have it. This is the paper cut effect in Procreate. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Give me a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And then I'm also going to put up another couple of Procreate tutorials so you can keep watching and you can keep learning. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.